It began not with a public statement, but with a chilling silence that echoed through the stone corridors of Windsor. Just moments ago, an urgent leak from within the inner sanctum of the monarchy has confirmed what many suspected but few dared to whisper. Prince William has reached a final, irreversible decision regarding his brother Harry's potential return to the United Kingdom. This is not just a disagreement between siblings. It is a constitutional line in the sand drawn by the man who will one day wear the crown. While King Charles has often been seen as the mediator, the father hoping for a prodigal son's return, William has reportedly stepped into a role of cold, hard pragmatism. Behind the closed doors of Adelaide Cottage, the mask of royal stoicism has finally slipped. Sources close to the Prince of Wales describe a man who is no longer interested in optics or hollow gestures. He has watched the institution he serves be battered by years of revelations and interviews. Now, as the family deals with the health crises of both the King and Princess Catherine, William has made his stance clear. The circle of trust is closed. The decision, described by palace insiders as an ultimatum, was delivered during a private briefing with the King's senior advisors. William reportedly insisted that any formal path back for Harry is not just difficult, it is non-existent. Observers noticed the sudden shift in atmosphere at the palace earlier today. Aides were seen moving with a frantic energy, refusing eye contact with the press, as the weight of this internal fracture became public knowledge. This was the moment the future king chose his legacy over his bloodline. William's jaw was set, his body language haunted by the burden of protection. Protection for his wife, his children, and the fragile stability of the monarchy itself. He is done playing the game of palace optics. For William, the safety of Catherine's recovery and the privacy of their children are the only priorities that remain, and Harry's presence is seen as a variable the prince is no longer willing to account for. As the global headlines begin to erupt, the question isn't just why William said no, it's what this finality does to the very foundation of the House of Windsor. Before we peel back the layers of this devastating conflict and reveal the leaked correspondence that forced William's hand, you must understand. The monarchy you knew yesterday is gone. A new, sharper era has begun. The palace may attempt to maintain its polished facade, but the reality behind the scenes is far more fractured. For months, a delicate game of secrecy has been played out in the private offices of the Prince of Wales, but a single leaked internal email has shattered the illusion of control. This message, allegedly sent between high-ranking aides within the Kensington Palace machine, referred to a worsening situation and the need for absolute loyalty during these difficult days. The wording was deliberate and cold, leaving no room for the olive branches, often discussed in the tabloids. It confirmed what the inner circle has feared. The silence from William wasn't just about privacy. It was a strategic shield meant to protect the monarchy from the chaos of a brother's return. Inside the walls of Windsor, the tension has become a physical presence. Staff who have served the family for decades describe an environment of unprecedented anxiety, where whispers and corners are hushed as soon as a senior royal enters the room. Those close to William are no longer available for comment, and aides have reportedly been asked to sign updated non-disclosure agreements to ensure the William ultimatum remains airtight. It is no longer just about family loyalty. It is about institutional survival. The turning point came when it was revealed that Harry had attempted to reach out through an intermediary during Catherine's most fragile moments of recovery. For William, this was the final intrusion. While King Charles reportedly argued for a path of reconciliation, believing that a divided house cannot stand, William stood his ground with a ferocity that stunned even the most veteran courtiers. He accused the advisors of prioritizing image over the safety of his wife's mental and physical health. The future king has made it clear, the monarchy does not just manage feelings, it manages perception, and Harry is a variable he is no longer willing to tolerate in that equation. As this internal fracture widens, the public is left questioning what truly happened during those months of uncharacteristic silence. Was it really about space for recovery? Or was it the palace machine desperately trying to contain a reality far more devastating than they were ready to admit? The mask is not just slipping. It is being torn away, and what lies beneath is a family fighting a war on two fronts. One for the health of their loved ones, and another for the very soul of the crown. Behind the tightly guarded doors of Clarence House, King Charles has held a series of emergency meetings that have pushed the royal household to its emotional limit. For all its pageantry and ceremony, the monarchy is, at its core, an institution that survives on structure and control. But now, that structure is colliding with the raw reality of a father's heart. Charles has spent decades preparing for the throne, yet nothing in the post-Windsor reforms prepared him for the brutal choice he now faces: the stability of the crown or the redemption of his youngest son. Sources inside the king's study describe an atmosphere where scripture and sovereignty have finally collided. Charles, already carrying the weight of a divided family and a fragile commonwealth, has looked to the law not for comfort, but for leverage to prevent a total collapse of the royal image. While he reportedly yearns for a path of reconciliation, believing that a house divided cannot stand, he is being met with an immovable force in Prince William. This isn't just a private family matter anymore. It has escalated into a constitutional crisis where the future king is effectively overruling the current one. The tension flared to a breaking point during a spiritually guided constitutional review with senior advisors. William argued fiercely, insisting that the game of optics had already cost the family too much. To William, Harry's return is not a gesture of peace, but a dangerous variable that threatens the privacy of Catherine's recovery and the mental well-being of the royal heirs. Charles was reportedly left shaken when William accused the advisors of prioritizing a polished narrative over the actual human cost paid by those behind palace walls. One witness to these hushed meetings described the king as visibly aged by the conflict, his pen poised over documents that could rewrite royal succession protocols forever. Charles is beginning to realize that the monarchy he inherited is no longer a harmless fairy tale. It is a system reaching its breaking point, where the silent, cold pragmatism of the heir is starting to eclipse the traditional mercy of the king. The fate of the House of Windsor now dangles in the balance, caught between a father's hope and a future king's final, devastating no. While the walls of Windsor were tightening, a new and unexpected element entered the fray, threatening to destabilize the fragile peace William had fought so hard to maintain. Word began to circulate among the highest levels of the royal household of a secret correspondence. A letter, reportedly penned by Meghan herself, addressed directly to the king's private office. In the public eye, the Sussexes have maintained a curated distance, but behind the scenes, this was seen as a strategic olive branch that felt more like a calculated maneuver. The timing could not have been worse. As the family grappled with Catherine's health and the king's ongoing treatments, this sudden attempt at contact was viewed by William's camp not as an act of family love, but as an intrusion into a moment of extreme vulnerability. The contents of this alleged letter have become the subject of intense, whispered debate within the palace corridors. Sources suggest it wasn't just a simple message of well wishes. Instead, it was a sophisticated appeal for a temporary working arrangement, a proposal for Harry to step in and alleviate the burden on a depleted royal roster. To a father like Charles, who is weary and facing his own mortality, the offer might have seemed like a glimmer of hope. But to William, it was a direct violation of the Sandringham Summit Agreement. He saw it as a Trojan horse, an attempt to regain the half-in, half-out status that the late Queen had so firmly rejected. The reaction at Adelaide Cottage was reportedly one of cold fury. William has long believed that any platform given to the Sussexes eventually leads to further revelations and public heartbreak. To him, this wasn't an olive branch. It was a match struck in a room full of gasoline. He reportedly told his father that the institution cannot be a revolving door for those who chose to walk away and profit from its secrets. The trust is not just broken. It has been pulverized. As the king weighed the emotional cost of rejecting his son's offer, William made it clear that his priority was not the PR narrative of a united family, but the actual, physical peace required for his wife's recovery. This clash of ideologies has created a rift so deep that even the most seasoned royal mediators are struggling to find common ground. The letter from Montecito didn't bring peace. It reignited a firestorm that has forced the future king to take his most aggressive stance yet. The battle lines are no longer just drawn. They are being fortified. Behind the heavy curtains of Windsor, the true catalyst for Prince William's uncompromising stance remains the woman at the center of the storm. While the world speculates on the future of the monarchy, William's focus has narrowed to a single, sacred mission: the protection of Catherine during her most fragile state. This is no longer just about royal protocol. It is a husband's fierce defense against any variable that could disrupt a hard-won recovery. Insiders reveal that Catherine's role in this decision, though quiet, has been the ultimate deciding factor. For months, as she navigated a brutal and unpredictable health journey, Catherine has redefined the meaning of royal resilience. But that resilience has come at a staggering cost. Reports from within the medical wing suggest that the mere mention of renewed family drama or the media circus that accompanies the Sussexes' presence causes a visible physical toll. William has witnessed this firsthand: the tension in her shoulders, the exhaustion in her eyes, and it has hardened his heart into a shield of iron. The future king has reportedly made it clear to the palace machine that Catherine's recovery will not be used as a bargaining chip for family reconciliation. He views Harry's potential return as a noise the institution cannot afford while its emotional heart is healing. There were moments during the darkest nights of her treatment when William realized that the monarchy's survival depends entirely on the stability of his own household. If Catherine is the anchor of the crown, William has decided he will be the fortress that surrounds her. This is the Catherine factor that the public rarely sees: the way her vulnerability has forced a future king to prioritize the human over the institutional. William is no longer playing by the old rules of never complain, never explain, when it comes to his wife's peace of mind. He is done allowing outside chaos to penetrate their private sanctuary. The decision to bar Harry is not a move of spite. It is a calculated act of survival for a woman who has given everything to the crown and now needs the crown to protect her in return. Behind the stone walls and polished brass, a cold war is erupting between two factions of the royal establishment. On one side are the traditionalists, the veteran courtiers who believe in the survival of the firm through any means necessary, including a public display of family unity. On the other stands William, leading a new generation of modernists who argue that the old rules of secrecy and optics first are exactly what brought the monarchy to this breaking point. This isn't just a debate over a brother's return. It is a battle for the very soul of the institution's future. The traditionalists, many of whom served the late Queen for decades, are reportedly terrified of the optics of a divided house. They whisper that the king's legacy will be tarnished if he cannot reconcile his own bloodline while he still holds the scepter. They push for a controlled narrative, a half-truth, that would allow Harry to return in a limited capacity to help manage the overwhelming workload. To them, the crown is a machine that must be kept running, and Harry is a missing gear they are desperate to reinstall. But William has reached a moment of total pushback. He sees these advisors as being more afraid of bad headlines than the actual human cost paid behind closed doors. Sources describe a heated confrontation where William reportedly told senior staff that the era of hiding behind protocol is over. He has witnessed the failure of the palace machine to protect Catherine's dignity during her illness, and he is no longer willing to let optics dictate the safety of his family sanctuary. This internal rift has created a dangerous vacuum of power. While Charles tries to maintain the balance, William's growing influence is starting to overshadow the traditional palace protocol. He is demanding a total reset, a monarchy that prioritizes honesty and vulnerability over a fake, polished image. For the traditionalists, this is a crisis of authority. For William, it is the only way the monarchy survives in the 21st century. The palace isn't just managing a family drama. It is watching an ancient system struggle to adapt to a future it never saw coming. While no formal regency has been declared, the atmosphere within the palace walls suggests a profound and quiet shift in the center of gravity. Prince William has begun to assume a dominant role, not just as an heir, but as the de facto guardian of the monarchy's current survival. As King Charles continues his recovery, William has moved into a regency-style capacity, making critical decisions traditionally reserved for the reigning monarch. This transition is not about a hunger for power, but a necessary reaction to a system reaching its breaking point. The Prince of Wales is now the one presiding over emergency meetings and directing the palace's media strategy with a cold, hard pragmatism. Traditionalists within the court have noticed a hardening in the palace's resolve. The era of compromise and olive branches appears to be over, replaced by William's uncompromising vision for a streamlined and protected institution. He is no longer just the second in line. He is the man currently holding the shield for a family under siege. This shift was most visible when William chose to bypass traditional communication channels to address the public directly. By prioritizing the human reality of Catherine's recovery over the demands of royal protocol, he has effectively rewritten the monarchy's script. To the public, it may look like duty as usual, but insiders describe a soft handover, where the heir's priorities are now the institution's priorities. William's jaw is set, his body language reflecting the overwhelming weight of protecting his wife and children while guiding a fragile commonwealth. He is a man who has realized that the survival of the crown depends on its ability to be honest and vulnerable, even if that means making a final, devastating decision about his own bloodline. The monarchy is being forced to admit it is mortal, and William is the one standing at the helm during this historic reset. The finality of Prince William's decision regarding Harry is not merely a personal vendetta. It is a calculated effort to safeguard the next generation of the House of Windsor. As a father, William is building an impenetrable shield around George, Charlotte, and Louis, determined to prevent them from becoming collateral damage in an institutional tragedy. He has seen the cost of a childhood lived under the shadow of a fractured family, and he is refusing to allow history to repeat itself within his own household. Palace insiders report that William's protective instinct has reached an all-time high. He has drawn a hard line with the palace press office, forbidding any intrusion that could exploit the children's vulnerability during this crisis. To William, the safety of his children is a sacred mission that supersedes any demand for royal accessibility. He is done playing the game of using family photos as currency for public favor. Every image released is now a carefully curated act of endurance rather than a performance for the tabloids. The Prince of Wales has reportedly told advisors that George, Charlotte, and Louis deserve a mother who can recover in peace and a future that is not defined by external chaos. He views his brother's potential return as a variable that could disrupt the fragile stability he has built. For William, the monarchy's survival depends on the emotional health of these three children. If they are the future of the crown, he will be the fortress that ensures they grow up without the noise that shattered his own youth. This is where the regency shift becomes deeply personal. William is rewriting the rules of royal upbringing, prioritizing humanity and mental health over the cold requirements of the palace machine. He is teaching his heirs that while they are born to the crown, their first duty is to their own sanctuary and to each other. The shield he has placed around them is not just a barrier against a brother. It is a foundation for a new, more human monarchy that understands the cost of secrecy all too well. The irreversible nature of Prince William's final no marks the end of an era for the British monarchy. This decision is not merely a temporary stance. It is the moment the future king officially chose to rewrite the monarchy's script, prioritizing institutional stability and the protection of his family over the traditional demands of a fairy tale family reunion. By refusing to allow Harry back into the inner circle, William has effectively admitted that the old palace machine can no longer hide behind the mask of everything is fine, while the gears are grinding to a halt. This final no is a survival test for the crown in the 21st century. It signals a move away from a system that manages feelings toward one that manages perception with cold, hard pragmatism. For William, the cost of secrecy and the optics-first mentality has been too high, especially as he watches Catherine suffer in real time. He is done allowing the palace to control reality. Instead, he is forcing the institution to admit its mortality and its vulnerability. The legacy of this decision will be felt for generations, as it fundamentally changes how the monarchy interacts with the public and its own members. William has established a new protocol where the safety of the heirs and the recovery of the crown's emotional center are the only priorities that remain. The final no is not just a rejection of a brother. It is a confession that the monarchy can bleed, and that even an ancient institution must adapt to human fragility to survive. As the global headlines settle, the world is left reckoning with a House of Windsor that has dropped its guard. The monarchy you knew yesterday, the one that pretended nothing ever breaks behind palace walls, is officially gone. In its place stands a system reaching its breaking point, led by a man who is willing to overrule the entire court just to tell the truth about what is required to survive. The scripts have been rewritten, and the final chapter of the traditional fairy tale has been closed for good. As the dust settles on this historic confrontation, the landscape of the British monarchy has been fundamentally altered. Prince William's final decision is not just a closing of a door. It is the opening of a new chapter, one defined by a raw, unprecedented transparency. This is the dawn of the William era. Even before he wears the crown, he has sent a clear message to the world and to the institution itself. The days of maintaining a hollow facade at the expense of human life are over. By choosing the sanctuary of his home and the health of Catherine over the convenience of a polished PR reunion, he has humanized the throne in a way his predecessors never dared. This shift represents a profound reset of royal values. For centuries, the crown was a symbol of untouchable permanence, a silent machine that absorbed trauma and kept moving. But William has broken that cycle. He is building a monarchy that recognizes its own mortality and understands that its survival depends on its emotional integrity. The final no to Harry was the ultimate act of leadership, a declaration that loyalty to the institution is meaningless if it requires the betrayal of those who serve it most faithfully. The Prince of Wales has shown that he is willing to be the villain in a tabloid narrative if it means being the hero in his own home. As Catherine continues her recovery, shielded by the fortress her husband has built, the public is left with a new understanding of what it means to be a modern sovereign. It is no longer about the crown on the head, but the courage in the heart to protect what is true. The monarchy has survived wars, scandals, and internal fractures, but it has never been as honest as it is in this moment. The scripts of the past have been shredded, and in their place, a new, sharper reality has emerged. One where the safety of the heirs and the dignity of the family are the only North Stars that matter. The world watches as the House of Windsor navigates this uncharted territory, no longer as a distant fairy tale, but as a family fighting for its soul. William has made his choice. He has stood his ground. And in doing so, he has ensured that when the crown eventually passes to him, it will be a crown that represents not just power, but a hard-won peace. The era of secrecy is dead. The era of the protective sovereign has begun.